Imagine you're walking in the woods. The sun's shining, birds are chirping, you're laughing with your mates. You glance down to tie your shoelace, look up again, and one of them is gone. No screams, no tracks, just gone. You spend hours looking, days, helicopters fly over, dogs sniff the air, but nothing. Weeks later, they find a sock, perched up a mountain 12 miles away with no footprints, no way up, and no explanation. This is the world of the missing 411, the creepiest collection of disappearances you've never heard of. Until now. Welcome to Conspiracy. Hello and welcome back, you bunch of beautiful paranoid weirdos, to another episode of Conspiracy, the show where no story is too strange, no theory too far-fetched, and no one is safe from our deep dives into the unknown. Basically your favourite podcast that feels like that weirdly fascinating debate in the pub after a few beers. I'm Ash, your host, your guide into the world of conspiracies, occasional devil's advocate, and professional mystery solver. Although that last one is definitely self-proclaimed. If you're new around here, welcome. We cover conspiracy theories, weird mysteries, ancient histories, all whilst having a bit of a laugh. So join me every Wednesday for a bit of this and a bit of that. You can find all episodes of Conspiracy for free on Spotify or wherever you listen to my podcasts. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone listening so far. We actually hit number 51 globally last week on Spotify and Apple Podcasts for conspiracy theories. So shout out to you guys. You lovely lot allow me to do this. So please let me know how I'm doing. Reach out to me on TikTok and Instagram at Conspiracy or via email conspiracy@gmail.com. And please, if you enjoy the episode, get those tippy-tappy fingers and leave me a review. Seriously, it really helps. Today we're heading straight into the wilderness. Not the nice kind either. The kind where you're minding your own business, taking selfies by a lake, and then poof, you're the next headline that nobody can explain. Today's case file, it's called the Missing 411 Phenomenon. And it's honestly one of the creepiest unsolved mysteries floating around out there, let me tell ya. Imagine hundreds of people disappearing in national parks, vanishing right under the noses of their mates. No bodies, no tracks, no logical explanations, and even weirder, nobody in charge really wants to talk about it. There's some eerily creepy patterns, official weirdness, and more theories than your nana's WhatsApp chain messages. Quick disclaimer though, before we start diving into these woods with both feet, I'm not a detective, I'm not a park ranger, and I definitely wasn't paid by Bigfoot or the Interdimensional Alien Council to make this episode. Although, if they're offering, my DMs are open. Everything we talk about today is based on publicly available info, witness reports, documentaries, and pure, glorious speculation. Some theories are plausible, some are, well, about as believable as your mate Dave's story about fighting a ghost in Magaluf. At Conspiracy, I don't claim to have the answers, I just ask the ridiculous questions so you don't have to. So lace up your hiking boots, pack a snack, and maybe bring a torch, because after today, you might never look at a quiet little forest the same way again. Let's dive in. Right, as always, let's set the stage. Before Missing 411 became a full-blown internet obsession and YouTube rabbit hole, it all started with one bloke. A man called David Paulides. He's a former cop turned, well, let's say, reluctant paranormal investigator. Now, on paper, this guy is solid. He wasn't born in a tinfoil hat. He wasn't scribbling cryptic messages in his mum's basement. He was a legit law enforcement officer in California. He worked for the San Jose Police Department for over 20 years, specialised in SWAT, street crimes, and allegedly working with the FBI on occasion. So how does a straight-laced copper go from busting gangsters to investigating people vanishing into thin air in the woods? Well, it all started with Bigfoot. Yep, Bigfoot. Stay with me. Stay with me. Don't switch off the episode just because you heard Bigfoot. So, Mr. Paulides, post-retirement, starts digging into Sasquatch sightings, as you do. So he starts interviewing witnesses, collecting accounts, doing what he called boots on the ground research into the legend of Bigfoot. Now, I know what you're thinking. Ash, we went from credible cop to Bigfoot in under 30 seconds. What are we doing? But stay with me, because this is where it gets real juicy. So, while he was interviewing some rangers about Bigfoot sightings, one of them pulled him aside. No joke. Apparently, the ranger looked over his shoulder and said something along the lines of, "Look, there's something else going on out here. Something no one's talking about. People are disappearing in these parks in weird, unexplainable ways, and the higher-ups don't want anyone asking questions." Can we just take a second to appreciate that this is how all horror films start? Ranger goes, don't go in the woods, they kill people, they disappear people. Main character, let's go camping. Rest in peace, Dave. So, Paulides, intrigued, maybe a bit freaked out, starts digging. Now, bear in mind, as I mentioned, this isn't just a bloke off Reddit. He's got investigative training, he knows how to process crime scenes, handle witness interviews, and all the good stuff. Like, he's a credible source. He knows what he's bloody doing. He ends up filing a Freedom of Information Act request to the National Park Service, asking for a list of missing persons in US national parks over the years. And they respond with, "We don't have one." What? Yeah, there's literally no central database, no standardized tracking. Some parks don't even record long-term missing persons. So Paulides asks for just 2 specific parks. He's like, fine, you ain't got all the data, but just give me Yosemite and Crater Lake. Let me just look at those. And I don't know if it's Yosemite or Yosemite or Yosemite. Don't know, don't care. You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, the Park Service replies with, sure, that's fine, we'll send all that over to you. It'll be $34,000, please, for that information. What? Do you have to just pay to breathe in America? What's going on with you guys? Yeah, no joke. They wanted 34 grand for a list of people who vanished. A list that, you'd assume would just be public record. Anyway, Paulides presses again. And then later, for all parks, the quote came back at $1.4 million. Now listen, you don't need to be Sherlock Holmes to realise that's fucking suspicious. Like, what the fuck? Can you imagine going into, I don't know, like a McDonald's and asking, what's in your what's in your cheeseburgers? Like, what's the ingredients you put inside the cheeseburger? And they're like, 20 grand for that info, mate. And a blood oath whilst you're at it. What you hiding, Ronald? What's in their burgers, Ronald McDonald? Yeah, like, that's crazy amount of money just for information on missing people. This guy just wants to do some good, and they're like, yeah, $1.4 million if you want that information, mate. Well, anyway, Paulides realises he's on to something, right? There's no reason why that information should cost that much. Something's being covered up, something's being hidden. So he understands that, and he's onto something way bigger than Bigfoot. So, inevitably, he ditches the Sasquatch stuff. Well, fair enough. And goes all in on this pattern of strange, unexplained disappearances. So he starts cataloguing every case he can find that meets certain strange criteria, and we'll get to that in the next section, trust me. And then he releases his first book. It's called Missing 411, Western United States and Canada. So yeah, all of his books you can find online pretty easily. And then after, he drops books after books after books. Eastern US, Hunters, Children, and even an international edition as well. He's fully gone in on it. I mean, go on. Each one is filled with real reports, maps, timelines, and pretty creepy cases that the media either brushed off or ignored entirely. Classic. And if that wasn't enough, he actually goes full filmmaker too. He's released 2 documentaries. His first one is Missing 411. That was released in 2016 and actually focuses on the child disappearances of all of these cases. And then the second documentary releases is Missing 411, The Hunted. That came out in 2019. And that one's actually pretty interesting as well, because it's about seasoned hunters, people who are used to being in the woods and know exactly what they're doing in the woods. They've done it for years. And about how they vanish in strange circumstances as well. But, you know, they're both as chilling as each other. Like, pretty weird, eerie, dark stuff. So if you want to check them out, you absolutely can. Missing 411 and Missing 411, The Hunted. They're not just, you know, your flashy Netflix specials. They're slow, serious, almost cynical. But they do leave you thinking that something is going on out there. And no one's talking about it. So yeah, I highly recommend. So yeah, that's how it began. One man, an off-the-record warning, and a massive gap in official records. And what started as a casual side project, let's look into some strange cases kind of thing, turned into one of the most baffling modern mysteries I've ever come across anyway. So now you know how it all started. Next we're going to dive into the specific patterns that make a missing 411 case what it is. This isn't just someone got lost on a hike. This is definitely something else. So grab those snacks and maybe stay inside for this one. Alright, so now you know how it all started. David Paulides, ex-cop, now full-time what the hell happened here investigator. Let's get into the juicy bit, the patterns. Because here's the thing. Not every disappearance makes it onto the missing 411 list. If someone, for example, wanders into the woods drunk with a kebab in one hand and a bottle of Fireball in the other, it's not mysterious. Come on, I mean, that does sound like me though. Shout out Fireball. Oh, do you know what is one of the most tragic things that has ever happened in my life? This is absolutely not one of the most tragic things ever. 1,000,000 things come to mind, but just on the fact that I've just said Fireball, I used to absolutely love Fireball. Like, I would be the guy, shows up to a party, 2 bottles of Fireball, 1 in each hand, like, let's go motherfuckers, right? And then, I'd had way too much of it over the years, and one day, my body just went, nope, we are not doing this anymore. This is a slippery slope into alcoholism. So I'm gonna reject it, and yeah, I can't even smell it. Can't even smell the stuff. And it's such a shame, because when it comes to shots, Fireball shot is up there. Oh, that cinnamon taste, it's so good. I wish I could. Maybe, it's been a while. Maybe I could try again. I'll try again soon. I'm going out this weekend actually with a bunch of mates, so I'll take one this weekend, see how it goes down. I'll let you know next week. Listen out for next week's episode. But yeah, anyway, not everyone makes it onto the missing 411 list, right? Because what Paulides noticed is that strange ones, they follow a pattern. And he identified a set of what he calls profile points. So moving forward, I'm going to be explaining profile points that he came up with, right? And so what has to happen is that a disappearance case, needs to hit enough of these weird profile points to get into the book. And trust me, when you hear them, you'll start thinking twice about that spontaneous camping trip your mates keep trying to organise. Let's take a look at them. So the profile point 1 is location, location, location. So most of these disappearances happen in remote, wild, and usually rugged areas. Not just, oh no, I've lost the trail kind of places. We're talking about areas near large bodies of water, granite boulder fields, cliffs, ravines, caves, dense forests with little to no phone signal. These areas are not just, dodgy terrain. They seem to be magnet zones for weirdness. Paulides found clusters of disappearances around very specific geographic features. Granite and water, they come up constantly. And here's a creepy stat. Yosemite National Park, or Yosemite, or whatever, is full of granite cliffs and rivers, right? And it's one of the most active missing 411 zones in the world. So basically, if you're ever hiking and you see Granite and Babbling Brook, just turn around, mate. Go back, tell your mates you suddenly remembered you're allergic to nature and you don't want to be on this fucking hike anyway. Get yourselves back. Profile point 2 is search dogs cannot track. In most of these cases, they bring in trained search and rescue dogs, as they do. Bloodhounds, German Shepherds, all of that. And what happens? Nothing. They either refuse to track at all, like literally they sit down and won't budge. They start tracking, then suddenly stop in the middle of nowhere. Or they lead searchers to random dead ends, like the middle of a clearing or random part of the woods somewhere, like with no sense. It is weird because these dogs are literally trained to track, right? And in some cases they sniff around, get rattled, and they start to whine and retreat and bark like something's scaring them away. Like, these are just actually documented things that have happened. You have to remember, it's not just your neighbour's Shih Tzu who's going out there, looking for these. These are trained German Shepherds, like sniffer dogs. These are like the bee's knees of the dogs. They deal with dead bodies, live trails and crime scenes all the time. They do it for breakfast. They do it for fun. When these dogs freak out, you notice something's off. Either they freak out because they found something, or they freak out because, I don't know what's going on in these woods or whatever. So that is weird. That is a very important profile point, I think, personally. And can you actually imagine being a search dog? Like, you've trained for years to sniff out humans, and then just this one time you're like, yeah, sorry guys, I ain't following whatever the fuck is in that forest. Do one, I'm going back to HQ. Give a dog a bone. So next up you got profile point 3. So this is missing clothing or strange state of dress. So this one's pretty wild. So a huge number of victims are found either partially clothed, completely naked, or their clothing is found folded neatly next to them, or sometimes very far away from where they vanished. We're talking like shoes neatly placed beside a trail. Trousers folded on a boulder. Shirts found miles away from where the person disappeared. And often, the rest of the body is never found. Now, in cold weather cases, people argue paradoxical undressing, where hypothermia kicks in, it tricks your brain into thinking you're hot, so you strip off. But that actually doesn't explain the folded clothes, or why this happens even in cases without confirmed hypothermia. In some cases, the clothes were found dry and clean, despite there being snow, or rain, or mud all around. So, how do you explain that? Here's a little mini case, not the actual full ones, but here's a little mini one for you. One man disappeared once in winter. Weeks later, his trousers were found inside out on a rock, dry and free of any debris. But no trace of him. I mean, it's weird, man. Like, I don't know about you, but if something's chasing me through a forest, last thing I'm doing is pausing to fold my jeans like I'm working in Zara. Like, get the fuck out of here. I'm running for my damn life. Like, it is weird. Like, am I the only one that's like really bugged by that? It's like, someone or something is definitely placing those things so someone can find them, surely. So then what is who is doing it? Oh, it is so creepy. Can you imagine just being in the woods and, oh god, seriously considering never going to a forest again. Next up we got profile point 4, sudden weather changes. In loads of these cases, as soon as the person disappears, the weather turns. Like clockwork. Sunny afternoon turns into a surprise blizzard. Dense fog rolls in out of nowhere, or heavy rain starts within the hour. This doesn't just mess with the search, it actively destroys clues as well, doesn't it? Scent trails are washed away, visibility goes to zero, helicopters can't fly over, that kind of thing. If this is like a pattern that this happens, why can't it be something that's maybe a little bit paranormal? Maybe it doesn't have to just be that they've fallen off something and can't be recovered again. Maybe it is something more, something beyond, with the ability to influence weather. I don't know, but some researchers believe it's just bad luck, obviously. But when it happens in case after case after case, it's a bit it starts to look a bit coordinated, doesn't it? And just to reiterate, all the ones that are in Paulides' book tick all of these profile points. So it's not just like one or two. There's a lot. So it is strange. I have to give it to, and the more research I did into this and the more I went down the rabbit hole, the more it's all just very fucking weird. Profile point 5 is found in impossible locations. Now this one is definitely the creepiest one of the lot. So sometimes, and this is mental, the missing person is later found in a place that's already been searched, like multiple times, by people, by dogs, by helicopters, and they found nothing. Then weeks later, the body just shows up right in the middle of the search zone. So someone's definitely got to put the body back. Someone or something's taken the body, folded up the jeans and the shirt, put it nicely little, on the rock, took the body somewhere, and then a couple of weeks later, like, done with that one, and just put the body back. So who is doing it? Oh, guys. We are going to get into some possible theories coming up, so stick around for that. And what's even weirder with this one, some of the bodies are found in places no human we could possibly ever reach without having, like, climbing equipment or superhuman strength or the ability to bloody teleport. Some of these bodies are found in really weird places. Another mini case, a toddler went missing, and 2 weeks later his body was found 12 miles away, up a mountainside, 2,000 feet higher in elevation, barefoot, no scratches, no blood, no explanation. How the fuck? Seriously, how? Another victim was found wedged in a vertical crevice hundreds of feet above the trail, wearing no gear and no signs of trauma or fall damage. Does anyone out there have an answer? Because how is that even possible? These people are just like hikers doing parkour or something. They're normal people, they're kids, people with medical conditions. There's no way they got there on their own. No way. So what could we possibly be looking at here? Some kind of force? Teleportation? Giant birds with a vendetta? I don't know. It's bewildering. That's what it is. At this point, is the next one going to be, oh yeah, we found the victim orbiting Neptune or something, wearing one sock and a smug expression? Like, what the hell is going on? And why is this not more widely spoken about? This needs to be popular knowledge. This isn't just a conspiracy. It's like, people are going missing under suspicious circumstances. So let's get it out there, guys. So share this bloody episode. Let's get it out there. So yeah, when Paulides sees a case with all of the remote location, dogs can't track, clothes removed weirdly, sudden weather changes, body was found somewhere really weird, that's when he flags it as a missing 411. So it's not just that the people disappear, it's how they disappear. And what happens afterwards, that's what makes these cases so chilling. It is bizarre to have all of those tick points over and over again, isn't it? It just feels like, I don't know, like, do you ever get that feeling when something's not quite right, or I don't know, like nature's telling you a secret or something? That's what these cases feel like to me. That they're not just accidents, they're events. Something deliberate, something intelligent to them. Something's behind it. It's not just a disappearance. It feels like there's something. Anyway, yeah, I just can't pinpoint it. And now I'm pondering. I'm literally pondering on the whole thing. I'm like, how did they get in those positions, or why are they just disappearing? But, we're just warming up, because I'm about to take you through 3 of the creepiest cases ever recorded. These ones, they might stick with you, so be prepared. Alright, so we've covered the patterns, we talked about how weird this all is, the dogs, the folded trousers, the teleportation level mountain climbing, but now it's time to dive into exactly what I mean, because as much as the patterns are strange, it's the actual individual cases that have you lying awake at 3 a.m. thinking, what the hell happened to these people? Like I have been doing for the last 3 nights of research, and I've handpicked 3 of the absolute creepiest, weirdest missing 411 cases out there. So each one's baffling, it's disturbing, and yeah, let's just get into them. So first up, case 1, Dennis Martin, the vanishing child, 1969. So let's kick off with one of the earliest and still most unexplainable cases in the entire Missing 411 series. June 14th, 1969. Great Smoky Mountains National Park, Tennessee. A 6-year-old boy named Dennis Martin is on a camping trip with his family, mom, dad, brother and grandpa over the Father's Day weekend. They're having a picnic and Dennis and his brother start playing with 2 other boys nearby. Just some classic hide and seek, that type of thing. At one point, little Dennis, he ducks behind a bush to scare the adults. A simple, cheeky kid move. And the dad can see from afar, they go behind the bush. He's not worried, he's carrying on the trail, he's about to walk past them. So a minute passes, and eventually the adults, they reach the bush, and the kids jump out and scream, and everyone's laughing, like, oh, pretending we didn't see you. But then things take a bit of a turn, because every kid except Dennis jumps out from behind the bush. So his dad immediately kind of stops and looking around, and he can sense something's off. So he runs down the trail in the direction Dennis went, like from behind the bush, and there's just no signs of Dennis. No footprints, no sound, nothing. So they keep searching, and within an hour, the family raises the alarm. Where's Dennis? We need to find Dennis. What followed that is one of the biggest search and rescue operations in US national park history. There was over 1,400 people combing the area over the next few weeks. Search dogs, helicopters were brought in, green berets, heat sensors, night patrols, everything. They literally brought in everything they could. And they find no trace of Dennis. Not a sock, not a footprint, not a sweet wrapper, not a follicle of hair. Absolutely nothing. And it's about to get even more eerie. So, around the same time Dennis disappeared, a family hiking just a few miles away reports something really bizarre. So, they approach the rangers and they tell them what they saw. They claim to have seen a rough-looking man covered in hair or fur darting through the woods, and he was carrying something slung over his shoulder. Now, I mean, that's pretty intense if they actually did see that, and why would you make that shit up in 1969? I don't know. But anyway, the park service, the rangers, they shrug it off. There was no follow-up on that, no connection ever officially made with the disappearance of Dennis. But Dennis was never seen again. Still to this day, no body, no trace, nothing. He went behind the bush to jump out with the other kids. The other kids came out, Dennis didn't. When they asked the kid what was going on, they all just thought Dennis was amongst them or behind them and was going to jump out with them. They were only behind the bush for a minute max. And Dennis has never been seen again. That is terrifying. That is I would say that is possibly one of the most terrifying circumstances, outcomes for a parent ever. Imagine you're just 1 minute you're there with them, on a trail, on a hike in the middle of nowhere. There's no one else around, just trees, plenty of kids, plenty of adults, and then just your kid disappears. That is scary as fuck. So what do you think on that? Have you ever heard of the Dennis case? What do you think could have happened to him? Let me know in the comments. So next up, we've got case 2. Dior Kunz Jr., the toddler that vanished in 2015. So next up, we move to Idaho. July 10th, 2015. Little Dior Kunz Jr., just 2 years old, goes missing while on a fishing trip with his mom, dad, great-granddad, and a family friend. They're at a place called Timber Creek Campground. It's remote, but not off the grid. There's water, boulders, basically classic missing 411 territory. Dior's parents say they walked a short distance away to look at a nearby fishing spot. They tell little Dior to stay with Grandpa, who sat on a chair just a few feet away. A few minutes later, they come back and they ask Grandpa, "Where's Dior?" And Grandpa responds, "I thought he was with you." Well, he wasn't, and he's never seen again. Now listen, you might think, why would they walk off and leave the kid? First of all, you're with a grandparent, so you're fine. And second of all, the distance between them and Dior was maybe 20 feet. It's literally a stone's throw away. They haven't walked off miles. It's literally 20 feet away. Grandpa's there, kid's there, well, was there, isn't there anymore. No sounds, no cries, no movements in the bushes, just silence, nice little place, by themselves, and child is gone. So they call it in and the search team arrives fast. And the dogs, they can't track anything, helicopters can't find anything, the divers search the nearby creek, but there's no body, no clothes, no signs he even entered the water. And then, Dior's toy truck, his favourite toy, is found sitting upright on the trail. Yeah. No scuffs, no dirt, no signs of a struggle, just placed neatly in the middle of the trail. That's it. No scent, no drag marks, no blood, nothing. And after months of searching, multiple cadaver dogs did alert that the child was there at the creek area, but no remains were ever found. And remember, it's a toddler. He's not going to go far. He can't go far. He's going to just either trip or he's going to tired, he's going to stop. He's not going to go far as a toddler. And toddlers don't tend to, walk for miles in a forest away from the people that they're comfortable around. So the question is, how did Dior vanish so fast? And why wasn't anything ever recovered apart from his toy truck standing perfectly, no damage, no dirt, no nothing in the middle of the trail? It is so weird. How? Next up we got case 3. The Hunters from The Hunted. So this is multiple cases in the 2019 documentary that Paulides released. So let's finish off with real life cases, or technically, as I've just mentioned, it is a set of cases, and it's from Paulides' 2019 documentary Missing 411, The Hunted. So this one focuses on experienced hunters, people who live for the outdoors. They know the land, they know survival, they've got rifles, GPS, and, no patience for the nonsense. Which does make this extra chilling when they start to go missing. One of the featured cases is Thomas Messick. He's aged 82. So he's a former paratrooper, skilled woodsman. He goes hunting in the Adirondack Mountains in New York with a group of mates. So they split into a standard formation, eyes on each other, walkie-talkies, same routine they've done for years. Midway through, Tom just stops responding. His mates think his radio's gone a bit dodgy, but when they reach his zone, he's gone. Again, no signs of a struggle, no tracks. His rifle's gone, his backpack gone. When they bring in the search dogs, they won't track it. They won't go into the woods, they won't track the smell. Now here's what's mental with this one, because people in the group reported hearing a strange metallic sound during the disappearance time frame, like a loud snap or a clanging echo that goes through the trees. They describe it kind of almost like a trap door shutting or a portal opening. Now, that's just a little teaser for what's about to come with the theories, but what could have happened to him? I mean, he's 82. He's not bloody climbing trees or jogging away, is he? Something must have happened. In another case, a hunter reports being stalked for hours by something invisible but heavy. He reports that branches were cracking behind him, but there was no animal sounds, and that it felt like the forest suddenly fell silent, like it turned itself off. So he ran and didn't go back to the woods for years. And, these aren't people who spook easily. They hunt bears. They've been through wars. They don't rattle. These people don't rattle until something really makes them rattle. So what is going on in all of these national parks? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think is happening, because I'd love to hear it. And there you have it. 3 of the creepiest, most baffling cases in the missing 411 phenomenon. A child disappeared during hide and seek, a toddler vanishing in seconds from under his family's noses, and full-grown hunters being picked off easily. Each case follows the profile points we talked about before. Each one has no clear answers, and the more you hear, the more it feels like this isn't just a coincidence. So here's a thought. What if the woods aren't just trees and trails? What if the woods have this way of watching, or it houses something? What if something lives in the woods that we just can't see? Like bears, not Bigfoot, whatever. But if there's something weirder, what if there's something wilder that actually lives in the woods? But hey, don't cancel your camping trip just yet, because next up we're going full galaxy brain. Theories, aliens, portals, feral humans, maybe all 3 at once, in a trench coat. Alright you lot, so now that we've covered the actual real life cases, I think it's really important to always get some names in there when it's something that is actually, genuinely reported and real, and there are missing people, missing children. I always feel like it's good to get some exposure on the names. So again, if you know of any others that you want to drop in the comments just to, boost the awareness, absolutely all for it. I'll share it, like it, comment on it, get it out there, because that's what matters, finding the people that are missing, But now we've covered the serious missing people cases, let's move on to the most chaotic part of the episode, theories. Because if people aren't just getting lost, eaten by bears, or abducted by rogue squirrels, then what the bloody hell is happening? So let's take a look at the biggest and weirdest theories floating around. Some make a little sense, some not so much. But you're listening to Conspiracy, so you already know we're about to entertain every possibility. Theory 1. Feral humans living in national parks. First up, and arguably the most horrifying if you think about it more than 30 seconds, is the feral humans theory. This one suggests that hidden colonies of wild humans live deep in the forests and mountains, cut off from society for generations, completely feral, predatory, and very, very territorial. Sounds like Hills Have Eyes. It is Hills Have Eyes, and what a bloody film Hills Have Eyes is. That was like the first horror film that really got me into the horror genre, where I was like, I'd watched other ones before, all the old classics, Shining, etc. But it was Hills of Eyes, I'd say, that really kind of perked my interest, where I kind of went, this is a great genre. Like, I really get it. I understand it. I understand like the different camera angles and the way that it's filmed, and I took like a real interest in the horror genre from Hills of Eyes. Great film. Never watched it. Go watch it. Anyway, I won't talk about film every episode. I end up going off on a tangent about a film, so I'm going to reel it in. So how does a hidden colony of wild humans fit into the missing 411? Well, victims vanish near trails, so easy for ambushes. There's no footprints or scent trails, so these people would probably definitely be skilled at covering tracks. And then the strange reports of being stalked or hearing human-like sounds in the woods. So, maybe they are able to freely move through the woods without anyone seeing them. So next time you're on a hike, maybe someone's watching you and you don't even know. How creepy is that? And you know what? I'm kind of scaring myself a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, because I live in the middle of nowhere, just surrounded by fields and trees. So I'm like, let's move on. Well, some people claim that park rangers know about these feral humans, but they stay quiet to avoid panic and to protect tourism money. So they know about it, but they want people to still come because, all the tourism, all the money, and they just kind of accept that a few people go missing every now and again. That is so weird. If that is the case, that's fucked up. And this isn't just kind of a theory, actually, because a fun fact is that there are documented cases of feral people being found in America even as late as the 20th century. So the idea of hidden tribes surviving off the grid, it's not that far-fetched to think that, they live a way of life where they are taught from birth that the outside is very dangerous and scary to them. So they have to be very careful never to be discovered, and they have to, live this feral lifestyle and learn the way of the land, and every now and again they'll take someone, and they know how to hide. Maybe they've got like holes that they've digged in the grounds and covered them, so that when people are searching and trying to find the missing people, they're kind of underneath the ground the search is happening on, and they've just mastered the way to make it not be discovered. Can you imagine just a bunch of feral humans just watching the tourists go by, just hidden in the trees, just rating their survival skills, like a feral version of Come Dine With Me. That one's got trail mix. He'll be tough. That wasn't flip flops. He's dinner. But yeah, it's quite scary to think about. Like, if these people do exist, that they can just be like blending in with the trees. And this is a great forum for this question. Oh my days. If you are here in this episode and you have the answer to this question, please, please, please find a way to let me know. Just put it in the comments, send me a DM, fly a plane over, whatever you need to do. But let me know the name of this film I'm thinking about. So, let me explain it to you. It's a horror film, right? By the way, I can't remember the name of it. That's why I'm asking. And I've searched for this film so much and I just cannot find it. Anyway, it's a horror film. It's like a group of friends. Maybe even like, a group of friends, but they're all like adults. It's not like teenager friends. It's mid-20s, played by people in the 40s. But and I think it came out somewhere between 2005 and 2013. That's your window. Can't narrow it down any more than that. Sorry, but yeah, between 2005 and 2013, I think. And so there's a group of friends, men and women, and they're in the woods, and they're in like a house in the woods, and it's a serious horror film. It's one of the only horror films ever I remember watching that I kind of really was like, oh, that's a bit weird. Like, it did make me feel a certain type of way. And essentially what it is they're kind of just having a vacation in the woods, I think. And a lot of the scenes, when the person is just acting on the screen, whatever, a lot of the scenes has these kind of tall, grey, alien-y looking things, I guess. But like, they're really tall, they're really grey. But what they do is they blend with the trees. So you're just kind of watching the scene, and then all of a sudden one of the trees will move. But it won't be the tree that will move. One of these things will move out from the tree, and it's been there the whole time on the screen, and you didn't see it until it moved. And then, like, if you watch it again, you can watch back and be like, fuck, the thing was right there the whole time, and I didn't see it because I'm so focused on the acting. But it's right there just watching, and then it just, like, moves out the camera shot, and you're like, what? How has it always been there? And then, the only other thing I remember about this film is they go into a house at the end, and they go through like a red door, and maybe they have a kid. Maybe they have like a teenager kid with them. And they go through the red door, and they're like, a load of crazy shit happens. It's all towards the end, so loads of crazy shit happens within the span of like 5 minutes. Like they're going through portals or something. They're like on the other side of whatever it is, looking into the house, and then the only way that they stop this thing from happening is that the mom sets the house on fire, and they all come running back through the door, and they get to the other side of the door before the other thing can come through as well, and then the house burns down, they're in the woods, and then it kind of ends with, you don't know if they actually made it back into the real world, or if they're in the like alternate reality world of where these other things are that move, that blend in with the trees. I hope that helps, because I can't find it ever, and it's probably because I'm only remembering 4% of the whole film, but if you know what that film is, where it's mainly I want to find it because I want to see these scary alien-y, monstery things blended with the trees on screen at all times, and then it moves. Because I just thought at the time when I was watching it, I was like, that is so cool. Like, yeah, such good filming and the way that they did it. So yeah, please, if anyone knows what that film is, let me know. Anyway, let's get back to the theories. So that's why we are here. Theory number 2, is it Bigfoot or other cryptids? So let's look at the cryptid crew. Old reliable Bigfoot gets dragged into this theory like he's the forest version of a dodgy uncle at Christmas. So the idea is that Bigfoot or some other giant creature is responsible for snatching people out of existence. And there is some supporting weirdness that goes with it. So multiple missing 411 cases involve strange howls, heavy bipedal footsteps, or sightings of large figures. Some search teams reported finding massive footprints in areas people vanished. And listen, if a 9-foot hairy bloke with size 22 feet wants to relocate you to another postcode, and as I mentioned at the start, Paulides actually started his research career investigating Bigfoot sightings, so is he kind of screaming, it was Bigfoot all along, without saying it outright, do you understand? But yeah, I won't stick around too much on Bigfoot. We're all very much aware of what Bigfoot is. I'm not sure I'm convinced. Although I have seen some pictures recently of like really tall people standing on top of mountains. Like in terms of the proportion of the person to the mountain, that person should not be that tall on that mountain. And when someone tries to zoom in or capture it, that this thing kind of scurries away quite quickly. Don't know. Maybe Bigfoot is real. I don't know, now I'm like, should I do a bloody episode on Bigfoot? I've talked myself into it. Again, let me know if you want an episode on Bigfoot. I'm not going to actively put you guys through that. but if you want it, I'll provide. Theory 3 is alien abduction. Yep, the classics. No proper conspiracy buffet is complete without an alien abduction. And we love it. We love it on Conspiracy. We love talking about aliens. So some believe that these disappearances are the result of extraterrestrial abduction. And some details that may be seen as evidence. Sudden vanishings. Poof. No sound, no trace. Could they have been beamed up into a UAP, UFO? Search dogs losing scent trails mid-air, almost like the person got lifted straight up and didn't go forward, left, right, back, down. Also, victims later found in bizarre locations. Maybe they were dropped off badly after the experimentation. A little prod and a poke, and then drop you in the middle of a crevice in the middle of nowhere, 2,000 meters high or something. Could be. And if you remember, there was that metallic ping and mechanical noises hunters reported herein. Could easily be tied to alien tech doing a bit of stealth abduction. I mean, never say never. It could be. So there are so many reports about alien abduction, so why can it not be that? it would make a lot of sense. There are even some reports that mention strange lights or orbs just before people disappear. That's also a thing. Also, national parks are the major hotspots for UFO sightings. Is that a coincidence? Nothing's a fucking coincidence. Come on. Wonder what it's like being abducted. I just think, like, would they bring you back? Like, how long does it last? Is it for you, like, 1 second, 1 minute, 1 year? But for the aliens, it's the opposite, maybe. For the aliens, they're studying you for a year, but it's only happening for a split second here. Maybe we've all been abducted, and that is what life is. When you die here is kind of when you finish the experiment by the alien and you go back to whatever situation you were in before. So where you've been abducted from, your whole life here is happening in a split second moment there. So this is the complete experiment by the aliens. They're kind of like getting all the information they can from our brains to further develop their technology and their research and to, find cures to things that are literally locked in some people's brains. Maybe they listen to Conspiracy and like, yo, this is a great idea. We need to do podcasts. And then, yeah, when you're done, when you die, is when your experiment is over. They're kind of done with you. They're like, okay, yeah, we got all we needed from you. And then you wake up and you're like back into the other thing and you have no memory of anything that has happened. Could be. I mean, I've kind of formulated a whole conspiracy there, but could be a good explanation for life, for sure. Isn't it also weird that you cannot remember yesterday? Like, what I mean is, if you try to, you can't physically put your body back to the point before your last sleep. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? In terms of, like, if I want to go back to, let's say, where I was earlier today, I can kind of put myself there and understand that I'm there. But if I try to put myself somewhere where I was yesterday, before I went to sleep, I kind of struggle to do that in terms of putting my physical body there in my... You know how you can kind of look outside your brain whilst you're awake and create a situation around you. I couldn't like teleport myself to yesterday in that aura of thinking about things. Where I can kind of go back to today, it's fine. I can kind of place myself there and I'm there and I'm present. I can see my surroundings right now. But yesterday, I cannot. So maybe sleep is they powering down the experiment to not burn out your body in this wonderful construction of whatever's happening. I don't know. I honestly don't even know what the bloody hell I'm going on about. Theory number 4. Portals, time slips, and dimensional rifts. Now, if you really want to spice up your existential dread, there's the idea that there are natural portals scattered across Earth, and forests, especially areas heavy with granite, which has high electromagnetic properties, act as hotspots for dimensional rifts. So apparently people accidentally walk through, slip out of our reality, and that's it, they're gone. And this would fit because of like the instant disappearances, no signs of struggle, and then found miles away up cliffs. So maybe the portals exist elsewhere randomly as well, so you kind of just walk through them and whatever happens crazy in the middle and then you come out the other side. Because some cases do involve people reappearing days or weeks later with no memory of where they've been. Almost like they just time skip. So that's interesting, because also last week we covered in our CERN episode portals, opening portals. Maybe what they're doing in that experiment is also opening these entryways to other places, other dimensions, bending reality, changing reality. We also covered last week the Mandela effect, so all of these shared memories that are incorrect. So maybe forests are a good way to hide these portals because of these really dense areas that cannot be seen from above or can be quite easily hidden even if you're walking on a trail. And also there's kind of a sciencey angle from this point as well, because when you put granite and water together, you get huge natural electromagnetic fields. So in theory, that could mess with time and space. And in practice, well, who knows, but, I sometimes struggle to open a packet of quavers properly, but sometimes they just, have you ever had that where you just like try and open a packet of crisps and it just explodes everywhere? You're just like, damn, just wanted a crisp. So yeah, it's safe to say time travel's a bit beyond me, but could be. I actually had an experience once, and I don't know if I should share this, but I'm gonna anyway. Yeah, fuck it. This is when everyone stops listening because they think I'm fucking crazy. But so I had this experience once, right, where I have had a lot of sleep paralysis, right? A lot over the years, many years of sleep paralysis. It comes and goes. I haven't had it in quite a long time at this point, but I used to have it quite a lot. And at one point it went really, really wild. So, and this was about 7 years ago. And I was just in bed and I was 1 minute awake and the next minute I was just teleporting. I cannot explain it in any other way. I was teleporting. Also, I was on a bit of a come down for sure. I'd had too much the night before. Was on a bit of a come down, so my mind was already a bit woozy, and I entered this state of teleportation, and I went from my bed, and I literally remember I fell straight through the bed and landed in like some place that kind of looked like Dubrovnik in Croatia. So kind of like really old timey Roman architecture, like big walls, castle walls, like light, creamy stone, sandstony kind of architecture. And I fell through the bed and I landed like really hard on my feet on this kind of walkway, stone walkway. And when I landed, there was people around and everyone was just so shocked. Everyone was just like, what the fuck? Like, what? It was like modern times. I hadn't moved time periods or anything. I landed there, all of a sudden just appeared out of nowhere, and everyone around me was like, what the fuck? Like, where's this person come from? Like, who are you? Like, this is crazy. And I can remember, like, people were just absolutely bewildered and scared. People were screaming, people were running. And then, all of a sudden, I literally jumped out of that space, and then I was in a completely other space, and it was kind of like an empty void, I guess. I don't know how to explain this part, but it's kind of like something the mind cannot kind of comprehend. It was this open, void space. It felt like a library of life, I guess. That's how I would explain it. Like a library of life, of like, you could kind of put your fingers out and pinch a moment in time and go there, or like a bit of your memory or a bit of a story, or you could see into someone's life or something like that. It was kind of like it felt like a control room to a library of life. I don't know how else to explain it. And I literally touched the point where I'd just come from, in terms of stone walkway in the kind of like a Croatia Dubrovnik area. I kind of touched that because it was still kind of active. It was kind of like a light that was kind of shimmering down slowly. So it was the only thing that was catching my focus. So I touched that. And again, I just like transported back into this place. And again, people were just like, what is going on? Like, where are you coming from? How are you doing this? And I remember people screaming like, "What is? It's time travel! You're teleporting!" All the rest of it, and everyone was absolutely terrified. I'm just there like fully awake, by the way, and it's kind of I'm exhausted. It's like really taken out of me, and yeah, I just remember being so kind of overwhelmed and so like not knowing what to do with what's happening, that I'm putting all of this energy. You know how you can build your energy inside of you to the point where you can kind of almost fake push it. So I'm just building that energy inside of me in this thing, because people are screaming, people are looking at me, pointing, and I'm like, I don't know what's happening. So I build up all this energy and kind of just explode, and I literally fall from the ceiling of my room back onto my bed, to the point where I kind of like, I made ripples in the bed. And yeah, that was an absolutely insane experience. I mean, I've had so many, and I'm sure they'll come out in future episodes. So with that being said, back to the actual thing we came here to talk about. In my mind, it's not that hard to think that it could be some type of portal, travel, teleportation thing, because in my perception I've experienced it in one shape or form or another. But so it could be the fact that they are walking through portals and they are not able to be seen by the naked eye. There's so much we don't know on this planet that maybe that is a thing. So let's move on to theory number 5. We're talking about our favourite people around here, government. So, government experiments and secret operations. Another theory is that the government is behind some of these disappearances, either intentionally abducting people for experiments or covering up accidents involving secret tech. Like maybe they have teleportation devices, cloaking fields, or time travel programs. It could be. The suspicious stuff surrounding that is the US government already did weird experiments. I mean, you got MK Ultra. We did an episode on them a few weeks ago. You should definitely check that out. We also mentioned Project Montauk in there. So yeah, definitely go and listen to that if you haven't already. And also, what about that time where they literally tried to make ships invisible during the Philadelphia experiment? And then you've got Green Berets were involved in the Dennis Martin search, but refused to work with civilian teams, and they set up their own separate base of operations. Why? Who are they looking for? Why not share their information? Someone's kid is missing. Let's all work together. Like, what the fuck? Why are you setting up your own little thing over there? What are you hiding? And to back that up as well, a quote from Paulides, he once said that the way the military responded to certain disappearances was not consistent with a standard missing person search. It looked more like a recovery operation. But a recovery of what exactly? Did they know the body was missing, so they kind of set up a recovery operation rather than a search? Or are they trying to recover the tech that made it happen? Or are they trying to recover something that we're not supposed to know about? There is a lot of weird fuckery that happens with the missing 411. And what's the truth? Honestly, no one theory explains it all. Maybe it is feral humans in some cases. Maybe it's portals or Bigfoot or little grey blokes from Alpha Centauri. Or maybe the woods themselves are alive in ways we just don't understand. But one thing's for sure, the missing people deserve better answers than just, oops, guess they fell. I mean, come on, authorities. Like, up the ante, let's get this out there, let's find these people, Jesus. But I have to say, absolutely, after hearing all of this, the next time I'm out hiking and trees get a little too quiet, I ain't waiting around to find out why, that's for sure. I'm out of there. Okay, you've made it this far, and by now you're probably thinking what I'm thinking. If this missing 411 stuff is even halfway legit, where the hell are the grown-ups? I mean, people are vanishing in national parks by the hundreds, with creepy patterns, zero resolution, and half the time the only official response is a shrug and a badly printed missing poster on a soggy bulletin board. So what gives? Why is the National Park Service, the people literally in charge of the land where this is all happening, being so bloody shady? Well, let's take a look, as we're going down a trail filled with missing files, dodgy excuses, and red tape thick enough to strangle a bear. So let's start with the most baffling bit. There is no centralized official database of missing persons in US national parks. None. Not even a badly managed Excel spreadsheet. Nothing. If someone disappears in Yosemite, the info stays with Yosemite. If someone vanishes in Glacier National Park, that's Glacier's problem. There's no coordinated system across parks, no national record, no way to track patterns, clusters, or repeat locations. Just a bunch of park rangers keeping paper files in dusty cabinets like it's 1947. An actual quote from a Park Service spokesperson is, "We just don't have the funding or infrastructure to maintain that kind of database." Right. You're telling me Starbucks has a better tracking system for loyalty points than the federal government has for missing human beings? Just goes to show how fucking important we are. But also, imagine your mate goes missing in the woods and the government's like, oof, tragic. Anyway, anyone seen the bear mascot costume? Like, what the fuck? Why is this system not in place? It's mad. If you're thinking, okay, Ash, maybe they don't track it, but surely someone can just request info, right? Well, yeah, but only if you've got a spare 1.1 million under your mattress. Seriously, as I mentioned at the start, David Paulides filed a Freedom of Information Act request asking for a list of all missing people in national parks. The Park Service quoted him $1.4 million in processing fees for a list. If you want just 2 parks, $34,000, please. Just why? Well, apparently because they'd have to search manually through thousands of paper files. Which again raises the question, why are you still using paper files in 2025? Like, what on earth? Even Paulides' reaction, he laughed at them publicly, as you should. That is ridiculous. And then he made it his mission to collect the info himself, case by case, manually, because no one else would. How is he the only one who gives a fuck? And also, why are these people being so cagey? There are several reports from Paulides and others that rangers have been told to not talk about disappearances, or worse, to steer conversations away when families ask questions. There's no official missing persons department in the Park Service. There's no designated protocol. Some parks have vague incident logs, others just don't. And when you start poking around, doors start closing. Emails stop being returned. Freedom of Information Act requests get delayed or denied. It's almost like someone doesn't want anyone connecting the dots. And here's a creepy detail to add on to all of that. During the Dennis Martin search, you remember the 6-year-old who vanished during hide and seek? The Green Berets showed up, as I mentioned. They were uninvited, fully armed, and they set up their own separate command post, refused to coordinate with local law enforcement, and wouldn't tell anyone what they were actually doing there. That's not a normal search process. Come on now. That's a we're recovering something, not someone kind of energy. Alright, so let's just take our minds out a little bit. What could possibly be the reason for the silence? So let's just say, hypothetically, they're not just disorganized. Let's say there's a reason for all of the secrecy. What could it be? Well, you've got tourism money. National parks bring in billions every year in tourism. If the average camper knew that there was a chance they'd get yeeted into another dimension by an invisible portal or feral forest man, they might choose a beach holiday instead. Then you got the lawsuit avoidance. If it came out that there were known patterns of high-risk disappearance zones and the Park Service failed to warn people, they would be sued to an oblivion. So better to pretend it's just a coincidence, I guess. And then you've got, they're in on it. The classic. Some believe the Park Service is complicit. Whether that means they're hiding access to secret government installations, covering up underground testing facilities, or letting the alien forest rift do its thing in exchange for hush money and good Wi-Fi. We don't know, but the vibe is definitely, we know something and we're not telling you. So all I'll say is, if I ever go missing in a national park, guys, don't call the park rangers. Well, do. Call them as well, I guess, just in case. Just in case I'm wrong. But also, call Greg. You know, the one bloke from Reddit who always replies aliens under every post. He's probably closer to the truth. But yeah, also do please call the park rangers as well. Please send everyone and everything. Thank you. But the sad thing is, the lack of transparency is hurting real people. It really is. Families, they don't get disclosure. Search efforts are sabotaged by red tape. And valuable patterns, things that could literally save lives, go ignored. So whether it is incompetence, fear, or something darker, the Park Service's silence is suspicious at best and criminal at worst. It does make you wonder, if the people in charge are this quiet, what the hell do they want us to find? Well, maybe I'm just paranoid. Could be. Maybe there's a perfectly innocent explanation for why 1,600 plus people have vanished from US parks without a trace, and the only official response is a pamphlet on how not to feed the squirrels. Maybe. So here we are, we've wandered deep into the woods, and I mean deep. From the ex-cop turned investigator to profile points to kids vanishing in seconds and theories that range from feral humans to alien beam-me-ups. Missing 411 isn't just one mystery, it's a mosaic of madness. And you gotta ask yourself, is it all just tragic coincidence, or is something darker operating in the background, hidden in plain sight? Let's do a little recap of what we covered, yeah? So, people are disappearing regularly in national parks and wildlands across the US. They vanish without a trace, sometimes right in front of their friends or family. The search dogs are useless, the terrain becomes too extreme, the weather always suspiciously inconvenient. And when people do turn up, it's usually miles away, barefoot, and often not alive. We've got cover-ups, missing data, and a government agency that acts like someone just asked them if they'd seen the Loch Ness Monster eating crisps behind a tree, not where the missing people are. So what do I think? Okay, so from here on out, I'm gonna chime in with my opinion, and I'm gonna reiterate that this is my opinion. Here's my 2 pellets worth. And bear in mind, this is a conspiracy theory, trademark, not an official statement from MI6 or NASA or the Forestry Commission. It's just my personal theory. So, I reckon missing 411 is a cocktail of madness. In some cases, feral humans, absolutely. You can't have that many remote disappearances without the possibility that someone is living out there, in the trees, in the caves, off-grid, off-radar, possibly off their rocker for sure. And can you imagine being raised in a cave by generations of wilderness dwellers just to suddenly see a bloke in khaki shorts filming TikToks about protein bars? You'd take him just to show him up. Okay, and other possibilities: portals, time slips, weird natural phenomena. You do have the granite, the water, the EMF hotspots. It's all a little bit too consistent for me, personally. It's like Earth has created this little glitch zones, places where the walls between here and somewhere else go a bit paper thin. I can see that. I can see that it could be a possibility. Whether it's other dimensions or some bizarre force of nature we haven't discovered yet, something's possibly happening that physics can't explain. And then there's the stuff that feels kind of orchestrated. You've got those cases where the bodies are placed back like it's a message, or found in places that were already searched. Almost like someone is watching the search effort as well and waiting. That to me feels a little bit like intelligent control. So could that be cryptids? Possibly. Something interdimensional? Could be. But it also could be someone, some entity, something that has a bit of a god complex, that gets a kick out of confusing hikers, snatching people, controlling lives like a puppet master. That could also be a possibility. But all I'm saying is, if I get teleported mid-hike, please, when you put me back, make sure I'm in a hot country by a beach with plenty of beer. Simple man. And finally, I can also see that the government knows something, because they always know something. Do I think that the Park Service and the government work together and they all know what's going on slightly? Honestly, yeah. Just a little bit, yeah. I think that is possibly the most rational of explanations. there's too many red flags with that. You've got that, what is it, $1.4 million request for the data. Got the lack of centralized tracking, the evasive responses. When it gets a bit evasive, you always know that they're trying to hide some shit. And also, like, when those berets showed up as well, the military personnel people that showed up for a civilian disappearance. I don't know, I'm not sure. I'm not sure you'd send Green Berets to find a 6-year-old unless you're worried about what took him, rather than where the kid's gone. And then the fact that they kept quiet about it, then it seems like they're doing something to avoid mass panic or lawsuits, something like that. Or maybe because whatever's happening out there is way bigger than we're allowed to understand. So where does that leave us? I think the missing 411 phenomenon is real. I think something strange is happening, and I think we as a species are way too smug about thinking we've discovered everything on Earth, when in reality most of the deep forest and mountains are still unexplored. We've mapped more of Mars than the ocean floor, and we treat national parks like tidy little theme parks, but there are places on this planet, places that don't want us there. That's what I think. So, next time someone says, let's go hiking, think about Dennis, think about Dior, think about the hunter who heard mechanical clicking behind him and was never seen again, and ask yourself, what if the forest isn't empty? And on that note, let's wrap up the episode. That's it for today's episode, you absolute legends. As always, if you've got your own theories, stories, or if you've personally fought off a Bigfoot in the Lake District, drop me a DM or message me on my socials at Conspiracy. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram. You can also email me, conspiracy@gmail.com. And remember, if you're hiking and your dog suddenly refuses to walk forward, if the birds go silent, if your mate in front of you disappears mid-sentence, just casually turn around, don't panic, walk backwards, and get the fuck out of there. Thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to Conspiracy. I'm Ash, and I'll see you next week. Unless I go hiking, in which case, burn this episode, I was never here. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with your mates, and leave us a review. And until next time, keep asking questions, keep digging, and remember, the truth is out there.